Lincoln Douglas debate is a one-on-one debate format that we will be judging in this tournament. In Lincoln Douglas, students will be asked to look at a value and apply that value to how we understand some type of societal issue. So in this debate tournament, we will be judging the privatization of civil services undermines democracy. Now, more than public forum, the semantics and the framing, the words in the resolutions are critical to how someone might analyze this topic. Someone might choose to focus on privatization versus public civil services, or specifically on undermines and how they would interpret and evaluate what it is to undermine democracy. So in this format, you would use a value. Your value could be something like justice or moral or societal function. These are all types of values that we might have. Utilitarianism. The debater should give a clear definition for what that value is and why that value is the most important value throughout the round. Specifically, they'll use that value as a lens for how we critique the debate and the arguments that proceed. So what they'll then go into is their framework. How do we evaluate justice? And an example of this might be that they use justice as their value, and how we evaluate it, or the framework of knowing who is pursuing the most amount of justice, might be who promotes the most amount of rights protection. So in each side, they should promote some type of offensive stance that shows that they are advocating and pursuing rights protection more than the other side, because that's how they evaluate justice, or how to determine whether democracy is or is not being undermined by the privatization or use of public civil services. So I know that sounds very big. If you look at a smaller topic like spaghetti versus meatballs, or spaghetti versus hamburgers, you're going to maybe use the value of delicious and valuing deliciousness through the lens or criteria of nutritional value. And then through the nutritional value, we will evaluate whether or not one is more delicious than the other. So on the affirmative and negative team, the affirmative team will first promote some type of value and criteria or framework that you, the judge, should use. You should take very good notes on their value and framework, because ultimately what you want to be asking yourself is, what framework am I using right now to evaluate the arguments in the round? Both sides should be promoting some type of value or framework, or they might show how they meet both values or one framework. They might be promoting the same framework. In either case, you want to be looking at who is doing it the best. So the affirmative side is the proposition side, or the side that agrees with the resolution. The negative side is the one opposed to the resolution. Each side will be promoting a case. Their case construction will be about advancing topics or arguments, claims about this topic to prove that rights are being protected through their value of justice, or that nutritional value is better with a McDonald's hamburger versus spaghetti from wherever. So the structure of their argument is critical. A better speaker within the debate is going to be focusing on advancing their arguments and invalidating any points that the other team might have. There is a balance they need to have. They always have to be advancing their side. Just because they have defense and invalidate maybe someone's link to their argument, maybe they don't get that link, or invalidate the evidence that they have or the philosophical framework that they use does not necessarily mean that they are winning, because again, it is an advancement of their offensive approach of their side. So it's critical that you're looking for that offensive standard protection, and whatever standard they promote is how it's going forward. Framework and standards should be explained for why they are winning, or mostly why they are winning every single part of the debate. In this format, unlike public forum where you have both speakers, then a cross-examination, in this format of debate, the affirmative will speak for 6 minutes to present their case. Then the negative will do a cross-examination. That cross-examination is strictly them asking questions. Affirmative does not get to ask questions. They should be asking questions of clarification or any questions looking for areas of agreement or disagreement. Then the negative will get up for a speech of 7 minutes, so 1 minute longer than the affirmative. All of these speaking times will be on your ballot at the bottom, so don't worry about focusing so much on writing all of that down. So the negative constructive also has a negative rebuttal component to it. They will first advance their case for maybe the first 4 minutes. Then for the remainder of the 3 minutes left in their speech, they'll attack the other team's arguments, or vice versa. They might do 3 minutes of attack, then their case. They should be, again, promoting their side as the one that is the most advancing of protection of rights or justice, or who pursues whatever value. There could be 2 competing values, or both of them meeting the same value and showing how that value is better approached on their side of the debate. So whether it's through private civil services or public civil services. Then they'll go into an affirmative cross-examination. So the pro team will then cross-examine the negative team for a period of 3 minutes, asking clarifying questions, searching for areas of agreement and disagreement. Then they will get up and give their final speeches, which are called the rebuttal speeches. So the first affirmative gets the rebuttal speech of 4 minutes. In this, they want to crystallize the round, do any type of attack on the negative side, so any refutation that they need to do or rebuttal, and then crystallize the main clash points in the debate, again showing how they are advancing arguments in the debate, advancing an offensive position. The negative side then will get up and they will crystallize the round as well and do the same thing for a period of 6 minutes. So this is the last speech for the negative side. They have 6 minutes to refute anything the affirmative has said in their speech just prior, defend their positions, offer reasoning for why their team is winning, so the voters in the round, and refer to any of those voting issues that should be critical for evaluating the debate. Now, the affirmative got the first speech. They will also have the very last speech, because they are the one that has to prove the resolution true. They have the burden of proof. So the last speech is a small, short speech of 3 minutes addressing their voting issues. In the rebuttals, they should not be doing any new arguments. All of the arguments should have been done in the first 2 speeches. Anytime later when you're advancing new arguments, you should not count those arguments. You should only evaluate the debate through the arguments that have been presented in the first 2 speeches. And then at the end of the round, what you want to look at is, through your clear notes that you've taken and flowing, what arguments were advanced the most throughout the round, and what evaluation were you using through that round. Remember, it is essential that you remain unbiased and that you do not bring any of your own information into that debate round. The debater can't debate against you. They need to debate against the person in the room. They may have a claim that they make or evidence that they say that is not clear or may be biased or untrue. You can't evaluate that evidence. You can certainly at the end of a debate tell them that it was a missed opportunity or show them how they need to change it for future debate rounds, but that cannot be a mechanism that you determine the win-loss in the round. The debate happens between the debaters. They have to state whether evidence is wrong or inaccurate. You can't be doing that for them. So never intervene. Leave yourself and your own personal knowledge outside of the debate. When it comes to the end of the round, you want to give some good feedback. I usually recommend the sandwich approach of what they're doing really good, what they need to work on, and another really positive comment. An example was, you did a great job of setting up your value and the criteria. I'd like to see you apply that more to your arguments because I didn't see the follow through in those arguments. While I thought it was good, I didn't see how you were meeting that burden that you set or that criteria through your arguments. So make sure you make that clear link. And at the end, you had a great crystallization of the round and the main clash points in this round. Then you might say to both teams why you think that what was the most important, or maybe what are critical arguments they're not answering or questions that they could be asking within the cross-examination. At the end, go ahead and let them go. Do not tell them who won or lost. Come immediately back up to the judges' room to continue filling out your ballot. Don't sit in the room and fill out the ballot. That way we can have the rounds running even if you're still filling out the remainder of your ballot. There is prep time in the round. Each debater is given 4 minutes to prep. They will ask for prep time. They should time themselves, but you also need to keep track of their prep time. So make sure you're keeping track of prep time for both sides of the debate. Now, the ballot itself, you want to be doing 2 things. First, you want to circle and write the code of the team that won. Second, you want to give speaker points. Speaker points range from 30 to 0. Usually we never give a 30. That's a very, very good speaker. You want to think like Obama or Hillary Clinton or somewhat president that is giving a very, very good speech. If they are one of the most phenomenal and articulate speakers that you've heard, then yes, by all means, you have the right to give that 30. But it needs to be clear why you're giving that 30. So you need to put that in your reason for decision. As well, anything below 20 is really bad. So your range is between 20 and 30. If you decide to give a speaker anything lower than 20, you need to come find me or Jen and notify us to why you are giving it. That would be in cases of abuse, where someone was abusive towards a debater, bullying, didn't participate in the round at all, left in the middle of the round, was badgering. These types of things could be an element for giving lower than 20. Generally, you're going to look at a good speaker is going to be in the 24, 25, 26 range. A phenomenal speaker is going to be your 27, 28, and a superior speaker is going to be at 29. And that's marked on the ballot for you. Anything that is below average is going to be between your 23 and 20 range, but no lower than that. Now, there is one thing I forgot to mention in the public forum video. We have something called a low point win. A low point win is when the team that won the debate has lower speaker points. In other words, they could be better speaker, have amazing arguments, but they made a critical error throughout the debate that cost them the round. That critical error needs to be very specific as to why you would give a low point win. Low point wins are rare. They do happen, but are extremely rare. So if you decide to give a low point win, at that point you need to come to Jen or I and show us your reason for decision. And in that reason for decision, you must start with, this is a low point win because. Then say something. The higher scoring speakers, although they had these strong arguments and these articulated points, really made a fatal error that the other team points out as a contradiction that completely takes away the foundation of their argument, or whatever that they are specifying what argument it might be, or what it is that really swayed your opinion. So it's very rare and must be very specific. We get a lot of phone calls on low point wins because a lot of parents don't understand them, or coaches don't know how to kind of respond to them. They are valid. So make sure that if you do give that you're clear. After you've done all of that, filled out the speaker points, signed your name, circled the team, go ahead and hand that ballot in. So again, if you're looking at kind of the difference between Lincoln Douglas and Public Forum is for any audience. Lincoln Douglas is looking at a philosophical model or a value and evaluating what we're doing and why we do the things through that criterion. Versus Public Forum, where it's a policy, a plan, or an advocacy that we're promoting. This is why we essentially believe in the foundation of rights protections, or why justice needs to be pursued in order to advance a certain position. Kind of like if you were looking at evaluating the Constitution versus evaluating whether or not we should pass a law. So those are kind of the two formats that we'll have at this debate. And thank you so much for judging.